position group grading for the offseason and getting ready to go into training camp. Next to read Las Vegas, Nevada. Hot ass Las Vegas, Nevada. My boy A1 from day one, Spencer the Wiz on the other side. Blue Milk Boys Gaming here to break down the champions, the Kansas City Chiefs. Spencer, what's going on?
Nothing much. Not my favorite episode that we're gonna do for these team breakdowns, as I'm a Raiders fan. But I'm here. Let's do it.
Let's roll. Let's start off with the quarterback position, most important position on the field, the most important person in the National Football League player-wise, Mr. Patrick Mahomes, being backed up by Blaine Gabbert and Shane Buechele. All three of these quarterbacks will be holding a position now that the league has allowed us to hold three QBs. I give this letter grade A simply because it's Patrick Mahomes and everyone else. There is such a large gap between him and the second best quarterback in the league. Nothing really needs to be expanded on this. We all know of his greatness. Let's not waste time here. The only reason I wouldn't give this position group an A+ is because Blaine Gabbert is a journeyman quarterback. We have to see what he can do through training camp and preseason with the reps that he gets. If he's anything as good as Chad Henne, will be just fine because we all know it's more about Andy Reid's system than it is about the backup quarterbacks, and Shane Buechele will fight for whatever reps he can get. A across the board. This is an easy win here. What do you think?
Yeah, of course. It's an A. You can say, if the best quarterback goes down, like how good is the team going to be? But you can apply it to everybody. Other than Nick Foles, like that's the only time in NFL history that I can think of.
Yeah.
The backup quarterbacks just matter minimally because if you're seeing them, that means something's going wrong in your season.
Exactly.
And maybe one to two games you could see here and there, and like maybe that could make the difference between like playoff seeding or something. And maybe then you like don't get the first seed with Blaine Gabbert, something like that. But other than that, I mean, it's Patrick Mahomes.
It's Patrick Mahomes' world. The rest of us are just living in it. Just think back to when he went down with the high ankle sprain. You know, Chad Henne led them on a 90-plus yard drive. The system is flawless when everybody does what they're supposed to do. Letter grade A. Running back room, Isaiah Pacheco, Jerick McKinnon. Thank God we decided to bring him back. CEH. I like the running back room, and throw in Deneric Prince, who I'm telling you is going to make the team. This kid reminds me of Nile Davis. I'm going to give them a B+ across the board simply because right now Pacheco is a little questionable coming back from that offseason injury, but we all know that this kid is tough as nails. This kid could be every bit as good as Kareem Hunt if Andy Reid chooses to use him like that. I'm just a little concerned because he runs so hard. These kind of runners get injured. But still, Jerick McKinnon had 9 passing touchdowns last year, receiving touchdowns last year. That's more than guys like Justin Jefferson had. I mean, this is an unbelievable running back group. We know that Andy Reid likes to just sprinkle them in more than actually use them as power runners. But you might see that change this year. I was one of the people screaming for years, if Andy Reid runs the ball consistently, that the Kansas City Chiefs are a hard team to beat. And that's what happened in the playoffs. And I believe that's what won them the Super Bowl. When they came out in that second half and you saw Pacheco get the rock, it changed the momentum of the game. B+ letter grade across the board. Your thoughts?
I'll give it something closer to a B. I think that McKinnon is getting a little bit older now, and I do like Isaiah Pacheco, but not to say that you can't just have household names and that doesn't matter and you can't have a high grade for that, but I don't know. None of these guys are jumping off the page. We'll see what kind of leap maybe Pacheco can make in year 2. It's just a group. It's just a group of dudes. And I think that's how all the most successful teams do their running back rooms, to be honest with you. Running back just isn't that important, you know what I mean? As it was before. But they kind of do what they need to do, and that's all Andy Reid asked them to do. So they just get like a solid B for me.
Yeah, you're seeing it happen. The league is shifting. Guys like Saquon, Dalvin Cook begging for money. You can win a Super Bowl with a 7th-round running back. It's not important to be this big, literally Adrian Peterson running back anymore. It's just unnecessary. So watch out for CEH. I know a lot of Chiefs fans wanted this guy gone, but, the 5th-year option wasn't picked up on him. He wasn't as bad as a lot of people made him out to be. I think he's going to be hungry coming into camp and have a lot to prove because he wants to get paid for another team because we know that the Chiefs aren't bringing him back. I can accept a letter grade B. Wide receiver room, MVS, KT, Sky Moore. I seem to think that we're going to be adding DeAndre Hopkins to this list. I really do. I think it's just right now we're playing the waiting game. This is a guy who went on a lot of visits. The Titans, the Patriots came away with no contract. I think we're just in a waiting holding pattern, folks, where if Chris Jones gets signed, all of a sudden now that frees up a lot of money. And look, to me, it's so obvious. If you're DeAndre Hopkins and you don't have a ring and you're on the other side of your career and you're still pretty good, why wouldn't you want to catch patches from Patrick Mahomes? Why wouldn't you? I mean, money is not everything. You're never, ever, ever going to win making $30 million a year as a wide receiver. It's just not going to happen in this league. That's just too much. So, as it is currently, I would give them a B, B plus, maybe. If we find Hopkins on this team, you have to give them an A across the board. I think Sky Moore is going to take a huge jump. We know what MVS is. He's just a long guy, but let's not forget we would have never beaten the Cincinnati Bengals without MVS. Everyone was hurt and he stepped up. That is a monumental game. That is the game that kept him on the roster, quite honestly. If it wasn't for MVS, folks, the Kansas City Chiefs don't go to the Super Bowl. Let's not forget that. So Kadarius Toney made huge strides. I'm a little concerned with his health. B, B plus, without Hopkins, with Hopkins, and A. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm going to give this group a C plus. I mean, Patrick Mahomes can make anybody look good, and I think you're seeing a lot of that right now. I think that Valdez Scantling, I think, can kind of just play the same role for any team. He's just like an NFL wide receiver. It's like the best way to describe him. He's just going to run routes. He's going to catch balls at an average rate. Everyone else you're kind of depending on. Kadarius Toney's a little bit of a wild card. If he's going to be able to play in the full season. It's kind of just like waiting for him to fall. That's kind of what the Giants did, and they just didn't want to deal with it anymore. Sky Moore maybe, but a lot of everything after that is a lot of maybes. And if anybody can do it, it's Patrick Mahomes. But if you're talking just about a skill level and talent level at the wide receiver position, this is like a C or a C plus for sure. This is one of the weaker wide receiver rooms of any contender.
I think it's a little better than that. I think a lot is dependent on what's going to happen in camp. You do still have guys like Richie James fighting for jobs. Justin Ross is a secret weapon who got hurt that may come back and make a lot of heads turn if he finds his way onto the team. There are the Rashee Rices of the world. There is just a lot of pieces. And like you said, if anyone can make it look good, it is Patrick Mahomes. I do think they're a little bit better than you're giving them credit for, but I do understand what you're saying. If you and I line up on the left and the right side of Patrick Mahomes, you're going to catch 10 touchdowns, and I'm going to have 1,000 yards. So
Yeah.
We're not discounting that. But as a guy who watches this team every second of every minute of every hour of every day, I think we're discounting them a little bit going into the C grade group, but it's acceptable and understandable. Tight end group: Kelsey, Gray, Bell, Jody Forson. As long as Travis Kelsey takes care of his body, takes care of his mind, I don't see how this is any less than a B plus. I like guys like Jody Forson more than Blake Bell. Blake Bell's just a blocking tight end. I could easily see him not even making the team. I like Noah Gray as well. I think Noah Gray is going to take over for the vacated fullback position this year. And these guys catch balls and make plays. They score touchdowns. They don't drop a ton of passes. Kelsey can be a little erratic at times, but at the end of the day, he is the jelly to Patrick Mahomes' peanut butter. And as long as he is there, the Chiefs have a shot at winning the Super Bowl. He is that important of a player. He's the most. Kelsey will be the best tight end in the history of the National Football League. You may not like to hear it. He may not be the most dominant, but skill-wise and numbers-wise, when he hangs it up, it will be there. And so I'm going to go B plus, simply because it's him and those other guys who are just very average. But at the end of the day, again, it's Patrick Mahomes, and he gets the most out of these guys. No one gets more juice out of the fruit than Patrick Mahomes. Nobody. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, this is an A for me, just because those other guys are fine. They're just backup tight ends, but they don't trot out any other guys. Like when the game's on the line, it's Travis Kelsey lining up every play, basically as another wide receiver. So the backups just, compared to most teams, just don't matter as much because they're throwing out Travis Kelsey most of the time. They're not looking for a rotation of guys. You can even go like Darren Waller and the Raiders, like a guy who is also kind of seen as like primarily a receiving tight end. They would even go to Foster Moreau like a lot of the times, like a good chunk of the game. just not doing that with Travis Kelce, and for good reason. Obviously, he's the best tight end in the league. So if you have Travis Kelce and he's playing most of the game, it's hard not to give that position group an A.
Yeah, they're going to do a little bit more 12 and 13 personnel this year. They're going to keep guys into chip to block. Like I said, Gray will be at the fullback a little bit. Kelce is going to be 34, so you can't give him reps like he's 24. And you do want to preserve him. It is a long season, and you're going to need him in the clutch moments. So you're going to see the revolving door, I think, a little bit more than a lot of football fans will expect. If you're a fantasy guy, I'd be very careful with Kelce this year, expecting 100 balls and 1,200 yards and 15 touchdowns. 34 is 34, man. You know what I mean? Father Time is undefeated. And so I'd be careful there. But, yes, I mean, like I said, Kelce is like in the Mahomes stratosphere at his position. He really is. And he's got a coaching acumen mind. He knows where to go. His routes are crisp. And his yards after the catch are like nothing I have seen since Gronkowski. It's really unbelievable. B plus A grade, very easily accepted here at World of Matchups. Let's go to the O-line. Donovan Smith, LT, Thuney, LG, Creed Humphrey at center, Trey Smith, RG, Jawan Taylor at right tackle. I'm going to give this a B plus. I'd give it an A, but at the bookends, you have major question marks. Donovan Smith was hurt most of last year, and he's a journeyman left tackle. I don't think the whole tackle position went the way the Chiefs wanted it to, and so this is a stopgap with Donovan Smith. They got Jawan Taylor, who I really, really like, and I'm glad that they're keeping him at RT because it's not as easy as people think to just switch a guy from RT to LT. It's just not that easy. Now, I'm not a big OBJ guy, so I'm happy he's gone. You know what I mean? The guy's dead to me. He went to the Raiders. He got Mahomes hurt on a number of different occasions last year, and we have to understand that you have to give Patrick Mahomes Joe Biden protection. He cannot be touched. This guy cannot be taking sack after sack after sack. I want to see a full season from Patrick Mahomes unhurt. I really do. Jersey can be dusty, but it can't be dirty. And so because the bookends have question marks, they're new Chiefs, I'm not so, sold on them. I have to see what they do. I'm going to give them a B plus. The interior of the line is an A plus to me. Creed Humphrey's the best center in the league. Thuney is as good as it gets, and Trey Smith is very underrated, slept on. He doesn't get his flowers. The guy just pancakes anyone in his way. So I give him a B plus. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, talk about a dichotomy. You have like a Hall of Fame interior, basically, at the guards and the center position. I mean, as good as it could possibly get. Top line talent in the NFL. I'd compare them against anybody at the guard position in the NFL.
Anybody.
To be honest with you. Yeah.
Anybody.
So they're that good. But at the same time, you have two really big question marks at the left tackle and the right tackle. I don't know if you want to say which one's more important. I guess the left tackle, especially because of your blind side. We'll see what they do. I mean, they were able to do some makeshift stuff in the Super Bowl, but who knows what they were really planning for that. That's definitely some like special type of scheming, but I don't know. You play against the Chargers, the Raiders this year, the Broncos are going to be better. That could be a problem for them. We'll see. Yeah. I mean, nothing ever seems like a real problem for the Chiefs, but at some point you can scheme all you want, but if you have a guy who's getting blown by at the bookends, then that's going to become like an actual issue when it comes to the regular season and playoffs. So I'll give this group like a B minus. I think the left and the right tackle really hurt this group so badly compared to the interior.
Yeah, it really hurt last year, and we're lucky that Mahomes has got Wolverine's blood in him, and he's such a warrior because the average quarterback is out. And so I like I said earlier, I don't think this went the way the Chiefs wanted. There's other guys I'm pretty sure they wanted behind besides Donovan Smith. But this is where the 12 and 13 personnel comes in, bringing guys in to block, to help, to chip. Once Patrick Mahomes takes a solid lick this year, guys, watch what Andy Reid does the next series or so. There's going to be an extra guy in. We cannot, under any circumstances, get this guy hurt. This is literally – this kind of reminds me of the year Mahomes was going into when Peyton Manning went into that 55 touchdown year. That's what it feels like to me. The Chiefs are clearly better, and they know that every year for at least the next 2 years, it's Super Bowl ring or bust. So they're going to do everything they can to protect this guy. It would be like flying Joe Biden into North Korea. You have to have as much Secret Service around him. It has to be the Secret Service offensive line. And that's really what I'm looking for from these guys. And if Donovan Smith struggles, you got to get him out of there. I mean, I'm not a big fan of guys like Lucas Niang either, but who knows, man? Andy Reid and Clark Hunt and Brett Veach have been known to pull some magic out of their hat, and I think they might have to with the offensive line. If after 5 games you're seeing Mahomes on the ground more than like 5 to 10% of the time. Let's move on to the D line. I'm fired up for this D line this year, guys. I am so fired up for this defense. I think we might actually have a year where Patrick Mahomes gets a top 15 defense. I think this could be it. I'm very, very excited. George Karloftis comes in at left defensive end. Derek Nottie, not my favorite. They brought him back on the 1-year deal. Chris Jones, nothing else needs to be said. Pay this guy already. Please get it over with so we can make the other 2 moves we need to make and go to training camp. And Charles Omenihu comes over from the San Francisco 49ers, as well as they have guys like Mike Dana. They drafted FAU. I'm telling you, this is a line that just is going to beast. I think they're going to have a really solid season here. And what I love about these guys is that Steve Spagnuolo has the chess pieces to finally just send whoever he wants from wherever he wants. All of these guys specialize at getting to the quarterback. And when you're in the AFC playing guys like Joe Shiesty, guys like Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, you got to get these guys on the ground. These running quarterbacks that like to take off, you cannot let these guys get out of the pocket. And so the Chiefs are known for collapsing the pocket. I think they were second last year in sacks. I expect a huge jump from George Karloftis this year. Chris Jones is going to be what he's going to be. And I like that they've gotten young. I think Omenihu is a great pick here. Bye-bye, Frank Clark. You want to go to the Broncos? Go. You know what I mean? Like, bye. We got everything we needed out of you. You gave us 2 rings. You were the shark in the playoffs. But this is a business, guys, and you can't hold on to these emotional parts of the team. Say goodbye. That's what the Patriots did, and that's why they stayed so well. And so I'm giving these guys a B+. I do not like Derek Nottie, but they needed some beef in the middle. I understand it. And so they kept him. I think this is going to be a solid unit this year. B+.
Yeah, I think I'm going to give him a B+ too. I just think that you have enough weapons. You may not have, Chris Jones, of course, is a name. He's one of the best in the league. But, behind Chris Jones, you just have a collection of guys, maybe not a lot that people have heard of or, have jerseys of. But at the same time, these guys are solid and under the right defensive coordinator. That's really what all these defensive coordinators really need. They just need guys who fit their system. They don't need Aaron Donald, at the line. I mean, of course, every defensive coordinator would like someone like that. But at the end of the day, it's about who fits what they need to do. Can you do this thing that I need you to? And, good teams draft for that. And I think that the Chiefs are just specialists at drafting. That's what the Patriots did. It just seems like such an obvious formula. I know that you can't do this, this, and this, but I know you're really good at this, this, and this. And that's all I ask of you to do. Yeah. So I think that when you combine all of those together, with the defensive coordinator, it's a really good defensive line. It's like a arms race in the AFC West for best defensive line every year. I don't know why, but it is. And that's just kind of how they roll. But the Chiefs are right up there. They're not sitting firmly in 3rd or 4th place on the defensive line list for the AFC West.
Not at all. They have good players with a couple great players. But I have a funny feeling that this is the year that they take that next step. Yes, they've lost a couple guys that they would have, loved to keep. But at the same time, you bringing in youth, paying them less, that's the formula to winning. And I don't think they're done yet. I do think once Chris Jones gets signed here and frees a little bit of money up, a guy like Yannick Ngakoue could be brought back. You know what I mean? There's guys out there, Clowney, who I don't love, but he's a veteran. You know what I mean? Carlos Dunlap could come back to the Kansas City Chiefs and make a huge stride with these rookies and these second-year guys. You have to have a little bit of everything. You know what I mean? And Veach and Andy Reid, they're cooking this up properly. They know what's important, and they know how to add a little bit of this in and a little bit of this and rotate guys in and out. And that's honestly how they won the Super Bowl last year. And I think that's how they could end up winning it again. Look, the recipe has been the same, and it's worked. Why change it? So I really like the line there. I give them a B+ as well. Linebacker. My favorite part of this freaking defense, man, and I'm giving them an A plus. I don't care. You guys can laugh at me all you want. The linebacker group is going to go HAM this year, starting off with my favorite defensive player right now, Nick Bolton. I just ordered his jersey. Nick Bolton is an absolute monster. I look at this guy and I see the black Luke Kuechly. He is a tackle machine. Willie Gay, not to be slept on. We steal Drew Tranquil from the Chargers. And look, Lil Chanel hardly got any reps last year, and he was still beasting with the time that he got. Tranquil and Chanel could be a 1 and 2 on most NFL teams. They were 3 and 4 here. Chanel's a rotational player that just likes to hit. They're going to be a physical force. You saw the balls getting tipped. Bolton was catching these balls in the Super Bowl. That BS call that when Snead lit that guy up, that was a catch and a fumble return for a touchdown. I'm sorry. He could have easily been the MVP in the Super Bowl. Easily. And so I really like this group. I like Bolton a lot. You know, he's the signal caller. He's the glue in the middle. Nothing's getting past him. He can play in coverage. So can Gay. I'm going to give him an A+ going into this year. I think they're, if not number one linebacker group in the league, top three. We can argue it all day, 1 through 4 from any of the top 3 teams. But I just see such an ascension, and these guys are young. I mean, Bolton is 22 years old, bro. Not getting paid and hungry to keep going, and he's just a silent leader. I love everything about the linebacker group. A+.
Yeah, I'll give it like an A-, B+. I mean, maybe not the all pro level talent that maybe some of the best teams in the league have, but Drew Tranquil, I think, was a really good signing for them. He's like a cover linebacker. He played for, I mean, we know about him because of the Chargers, like more than probably most people do, but I really liked him coming out of college too. It's kind of who I was hoping the Raiders would take in the draft that year. So that's really good. And when you add that, we talked about Nick Bolton. We did a whole video about him last year, just about how good he was. And
he's so good, bro.
Yeah,
he's better than people even think he is. He's going. Nick Bolton has another gear. You've heard it here first, folks. He's
just a kid, really.
He's got another gear. He's not even begun to scratch the surface of how good he can be. I'm telling you, folks, watch Nick Bolton this year. Is going to go absolutely nuclear for the Kansas City Chiefs. Watch.
Yeah, so definitely a player to take a look at. I just think he's going to be like really high impact. Willie Gay is just really solid. So they just have guys who are just going to come in. I don't think there's going to be any rotation, any combination of like those 4 guys that you're not going to like on the field at any time. You know, it doesn't feel like there's going to be any weaknesses. So I'll give it like an A-, B+ type of grade.
Yeah, I mean, you take away the running back coming out of the backfield over the middle from the other team. That's a huge piece to take away from the other team because they can cover those guys. Most linebackers are too old or too slow to cover Christian McCaffrey coming out of the middle, to cover Saquon Barkley coming out. They just are. These guys are young and hungry, man. I like what they've done with this unit. Let's go to the secondary. Trent McDuffie on the left, L'Jarius Sneed on the right, free safety, Brian Cook in the middle, and we got Justin Reed rounding them out. I'm going to give it a B-. I'm not the biggest Justin Reed lover. I think the guy runs his mouth a little bit more than he needs to. He played well. You know, he did make us forget that the Honey Badger was a chief. I mean, they did what they needed to do there, but I don't love the guy. He's a good, solid chief. My question is Brian Cook. You lose a huge safety in Juan Thornhill, who in my mind was not worth the money that he's getting from Cleveland and never really lived up to the potential. When they signed Thornhill out of Virginia, people were saying it could be the steal of the draft. To me, he was just a little bit better than average. So if Brian Cook, who can now get a chance, can fill that role, they can be a B+ secondary. I love L'Jarius Sneed. You can do so many things with him. The Chiefs are going to have a real problem with this guy because he's going to want to get paid. He can blitz the quarterback. He can play safety. He can play corner. He's physical. You saw the hit he threw on that guy in the Super Bowl. Same thing with McDuffie out of Washington. They drafted this guy because he's physical. These guys are taking another step. You have to remember at one point last year in the Cincinnati game in the playoffs, the whole secondary was all rookies. And they won that game. You know, Jalen Watson, Joshua Williams. I mean, they're going to be better this year now that they have playoff experience, Super Bowl rings. You don't get worse. And they're young and hungry, and you got to worry about paying a lot of them. The only guy you got to worry about is Snead. And he's going to ball out this year because believe me, man, when guys know that contract is coming, that big one, the I'm 25, 26, this is the time to get
Yeah.
paid contract,
Yeah.
they go off. He's going to go off this year. Snead's going to go off this year, folks. And we may or may not be able to keep him, but I'm going to give him a B plus. They bring over Mike Edwards. I like that signing. Even though he's not great, he's got a nose for the ball. He's got a nose for the end zone. They just need to bend and not break. And I'd like to see Spagnuolo send these guys a little bit more from the position of safety and cornerback on the blitz. But I'll give them a B plus.
Yeah, this is a group that should be bad, but yet somehow it won a Super Bowl. In the safety position, obviously a little bit different. You kind of have some of the best, all around talent, just like Swiss Army knife type of guys. And I think that's pretty much how you do fill the holes for rookie cornerbacks. You know what I mean? Where you just putting guys so much around the field. It's like so much that the other team just kind of can't figure it out fast enough, right?
Figure it out.
Yeah, football game is just too short. It goes too fast. So, I mean, you just have to give a lot of credit to whoever can make that happen, to have so many rookie cornerbacks and, make them look like they're doing like a good job. And they're not bad. I'm not saying they're like horrible players, like undrafted free agents, but you know what I mean? It's like typically teams are not rolling out there with rookie cornerbacks and looking like a good defense. So I think it's going to be an improved group. I'll give it a B just because of how good like the safety position is for them and like what they can do with it. We'll see how big of a step forward these guys take in their sophomore year. Sophomore year is kind of weird because it's a year where people have tape on you. In the rookie season, there is an element of like, I don't know what to do with you because I haven't seen you play. You're not going to go look at college tape to scout these guys. So when you have a year in the NFL, it's a little bit more difficult and you can kind of look at people's tendencies. So we'll see. Like this obviously is not the best secondary group in the NFL, but when it comes to someone like the Chiefs who are going to score so much, you just kind of need to hold them to around 20, 25 points, and most of the time you're going to get the win. So I think that's the kind of approach they take when it comes to the secondary.
Yeah, Brett Veach and company. Let me tell you, his scouting group has done an excellent job of finding these guys in the 6th, 7th, 8th round. I mean, when you think about guys that they've, even like a guy like Jamari Connor who's coming in this year, Nick Jones, he's turning heads in camp. I mean, these guys, they're going to make the team, man. They're like unknown nobodies who all of a sudden they're playing against top caliber wideouts. I mean, look what these guys did for Cincinnati. Last year, Jamar went off. They held the guy down this year. That's all you got to do is hold them down, hold Diggs down, hold Adams down. Just don't let them get 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. You know what I mean? Don't give up that playoff, caliber, performance that you did versus the Bills versus no-name wide receivers. And the Chiefs will win because they'll score 30, 35. Even when they play bad, they score 30. I mean, they scored 38. And I don't think they particularly played very well in the Super Bowl. So that's the type of team they have. And so I have a lot of hope for this defense, and I think they're going to go far this year. But, yeah, I do agree with you, B minus. I'm going to give them a B plus. I'm a homer, so there's a plus for me. And then special teams I think their special teams is really good, man. I mean, Harrison Butker had a down year, but he made the kicks that they needed to make. Tommy Townsend is one of the best punters in the entire NFL. I mean, there's a reason why you have a hard time flipping the field versus the Chiefs, because when it comes down to it, Andy Reid will let Harrison Butker kick a 58-yard field goal. He'll see how he looks, and if he looks good in practice and he looks good game day, go out there and kick it, son. Not a lot of coaches outside of the Ravens can do that. And that matters. When the game on the line, Harrison Butker makes these kicks. I know he missed a bunch of kicks last year, but let's not forget he got injured on that horrendous field in Arizona at that game that I was at. That field is trash. Someone needs to take that team away from that city. Seriously, it's horrible. Like horrendous. It's so bad. Give Mexico City a team. They're terrible. But he struggled with that all year long. And a lot of people were calling for his head. But when it mattered, he made the kicks. When it mattered, Townsend flipped the field. So I'm going to give him a B plus too. It's real hard when you win a Super Bowl. Guys get fat and happy and they feel themselves. And the Chiefs never really got to celebrate their 2020 Super Bowl because of COVID. And so they're like really celebrating hard this year. The White House, the ring ceremony, guys are opening up restaurants. I'm just like, damn, like, when are these guys at practice? They're always doing something in the
Yeah.
media, and I like to be careful with that. I mean, I think coach will have them dialed in. I like to be careful with that, man. Like, you got a job to do. I mean, Mahomes is playing. I mean, they're everywhere. Like, when are you guys on the field? But I think they're going to bunker down here. The festivities are pretty much over, and they're going to get back to work as a unit for the entire team. I'm going to give them a B plus going into camp. And if anyhow they get a guy like Yannick Ngakwe, or they get DeAndre Hopkins, or they bring back Carlos Dunlap, Chris Jones gets that extension, it's an A. I cannot give the Super Bowl champs anything less than an A, despite any deficiencies they have anywhere on this team. Closing thoughts.
Yeah, they made it work last year, and not really the best Super Bowl roster you've ever seen. It's not like one that you can go down the list and you just see
Coaching.
Yeah, they did some crazy stuff last year. They definitely, I mean, they were Super Bowl contenders. I don't think anyone denied that from day one, but they certainly weren't Super Bowl favorites, and they still made it happen. So we'll see if they can continue going into the next couple seasons. I'm sure they can. We'll see, but yeah, it's hard. It's hard to win a Super Bowl and just go right back at it. Obviously, it's only happened a few times in NFL history. It hasn't happened a lot.
Yeah, last year was the year to beat the Chiefs. You guys, the Bills, you guys are going to pay. Cincinnati, last year was your year to beat the Chiefs, and you blew it. And so now, if they get one this year, you're looking at a dynasty. It's going to be a fun year. Dexter Reed, World of Matchups. Thank you again, Spencer Lewis, for helping me break this down as the enemy. But thank you for being level-headed about it. If you guys want to see us break down other teams, like, comment, subscribe. World of Matchups, bringing the heat 24/7, 365, and we're out.